Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime.
Oh, and I just have to tell you, I'm standing here beside myself. I saw that in an old movie. I'm standing here beside myself. And because the guest who we have today lives in a place that I consider just short of magic. And it's in merry old England. Her name is Amanda Graham, and she has been in media and all kinds of stuff for a long time. But before she did any of that, in our pre-discussion, she worked. Okay, all right. I'm gonna lay this out for you. Before the Beatles were a big deal, they were the house band for a while before they went to Hamburg, and then they came back at a place called the Cavern. That's where they met their manager, and they did all of these shows there. They became known being there. And Amanda actually worked at the Cavern at one point. And she's got, and by the way, she's going next week or the week after. She finds out later tonight. She's going to find out because she gets to go interview and talk to a bunch of folks in the business that are producers and directors and writers and stuff. And it's just a remarkable thing. Amanda Graham is with us. I got to tell you, I love everything about you.
Well, thank you very much. I love everything about you too, and I've had so much fun chatting with you, and I'm really, really excited to see what's going on, to chat, let's be honest. Let's be honest, Kevin. We really want to talk about the Beatles. That's why we're here, really, isn't it? So, like, come on.
Yeah, they were the band that, and you know, Amanda, they had such an impact that my mother and father did not listen to music on the radio at all. They had no idea who the Beatles were. That music just wasn't their thing. How in the world, at 7 years old, I was connected to the Beatles when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they sent me to bed because they wanted to watch Bonanza. The whole concept just amazes me. And so since 1964, February, I've been a staunch Beatles fan. I love their music. And I haven't told anybody. You're one of the first. We have a music show now that we're doing on the Brushwood Media Network, and we're playing songs like "Let It Be" and "All You Need Is Love," and the stories behind them, which is really cool. And then Now and Then, which is a song that came out 40 years after John Lennon passed away. They're just remarkable. But I digress. I want to talk more about Amanda. Because first of all, what was it like working in the Cavern? Because I'm sure they was full of tourists all the time.
All the time. But you know what the wildest thing was when I was 19, because I was born over here, right? My dad is from here. And so we kind of always had the English connection. But when I was 19, in about 1991, we came over and I visited the Cavern as a tourist. And so I went under there and we were very excited. You know, we took all the photos and I was like, this is where they stood up again. This is very exciting. And then little did I know, 10 years later, I was going to be living in Liverpool. And I remember, so there was a festival called the Matthew Street Festival. So Matthew Street is like the main drag that the Cavern was on. And so every year, loads of people would come for a week and they would open up the Cavern. So when you go underneath, there's a main bar. and then there's a back bar. And so what they would do was they would open up both of them, and then there would be for a week. I'm going to kill you when I tell you this, Kevin. For a week, there would be 24/7 Beatles bands, Beatles like events, and whatever else in the cavern. And so I was like a couple days before, maybe a week before, maybe it was 2 weeks. I don't know. It was a long time ago now. It's like 20 years ago now, maybe more. Oh, Lord. And so I went downstairs and I was like, okay, y'all don't need it. Okay, you need to know. I'm a Beatles fan. Okay, I'm going to know every song, and you need people like me. And so because for the majority of the people who worked there were just local people who they just saw it as like a bar job, a pub job. There were 3 of us who were Beatles fans. There was me and 2 Canadians. And we got jobs right before the Matthew Street Festival started. And so we had probably 2 days to train. It was so hot. Oh my God. And I worked in Atlanta in the outdoors in the summer. And let me tell you something. I have never experienced like heat like this, because you're 2 or 3 levels below ground, the ground. And there's nowhere for the air to go. There's just nowhere for the air to go. And so kind of as soon as you walk in there, you're pouring with sweat. And the bottles of beer aren't cold, but nobody cares, because whether you go to the front bar or the back bar, there is a Beatles cover band from somewhere in the world. And you have hundreds of people singing along to every song. I honestly, I can't tell you how many times I kind of cried, because I was like, this is the greatest thing.
And you were getting paid to be there.
Not much, but yes, it was so cool. I didn't care. Like I would have, like I wasn't going to tell them this, but I would have paid to be there. Like, everybody else, like all the audience were paying to be there, but they had all kinds of, Beatles cover bands from they had a band called the Beatle Babies, and they were little kids from Germany. They had all women from Argentina. They had like all these cover, and then some that took it very seriously. We had, I think, did we have the 1964, which are pretty much, besides the Backbeat Beatles, they're the most well-known in the UK, like Beatles cover bands. So it was really cool. But, we had George Martin came in one time. Like we had Beatle people come in, and it was magnificent to talk to tourists that spent all this money to come from wherever they came from, Japan or, South Africa, or just wherever. And just to see the looks on their faces. I know what that look is. I know what that, where you just want to sop up all the energy, sop up all the goodness, you know what I mean? And it was magic. It was absolutely magic.
And the thing is, if you are younger, you don't, and you're talking about Beatlemania and what was going on in the 60s with the Beatles, there is nothing. I maybe Taylor Swift comes fairly close, but there really was nothing compared to, because it never happened before like that. I mean, Elvis was big, but he wasn't. He wasn't. People weren't falling down, and fainting, and some girls were. Well, I won't say that, but there was a lot of positive activity around it. And so if you didn't grow up in that time and you're not aware of it, the one thing that I can tell you, in the American charts at one time in 64, when they came over and were on the Ed Sullivan Show, in the spring of that year, they occupied, because they had a catalog that Americans were not used to and didn't really know about, like She Loves You and I Want to Hold Your Hand and Twist and Shout and those guys. And so they all 5 spots on the top 40 were Beatles songs. That's never happened before, and it's never happened since, because they were that popular. It really was amazing to be there. And of course, you went to Abbey Road too. You must have seen Abbey Road.
Well, I've seen Abbey Road, but like when you go, but that's in London, right? So when you go to Liverpool, so where I used to live, which is Allerton Road and Queen's Drive, which is like Beatles Central. So, and I'm actually moving back there in a couple of months. But so Penny Lane is maybe about 3 blocks from where I used to live. And then at the top of my street, which is Allerton Road, there was John Lennon's, when he lived with his Auntie Mimi, that's like, you just go to the top of my street and it's just on the right-hand side. And so Ringo lived down near Penny Lane. George lived on the way to the Gap. I used to drive to the Gap. I would go past George's house. And John was just up here. So there's like loads of little memorials everywhere. And you see the Magical Mystery Tour bus pretty much every day when you live in kind of Beetle Central. They have the Magical Mystery Tour bus. It's an old-fashioned bus, exactly like on the special. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I love it.
And there was in the studio that they did Abbey Road in, it wasn't called Abbey Road because that's in London, but there was a studio, and the crosswalk is right there too, right?
No, so the crosswalk is in London.
Oh, it is.
Everybody think no. I thought it was in Liverpool as well. So after I started working in the Cavern, I was like, "Where's the crosswalk?" Because I want to take my picture there, because I had only lived in Liverpool for a little while, and they were like, "No, that's in London. That's like literally outside Apple Studios, which is where they did Abbey Road in London." So I was just like, "What?" But yeah, it's in London, but pretty much everything else is up here.
It is. It's just remarkable because that is a moment in history that for someone like me that I've never been there and I'll probably never get there because you guys drive on the wrong side of the street. If for those
I am not going to tell you that it's not going to lead to a world of hurt. All I'm going to say is take an Uber. That's what I'm going to tell you. Because I had to do so many driving lessons over here. The road markings are very differently. Do you know they don't have different colors for the middle of the road as well as the edges of the road? So you have to judge where you are by measuring how long the dashes are. So you look at the dashes and you go, oh, this must be the middle of the street, and it's not a one-way or whatever else because the dashes are 1.5 feet long versus half a foot long. It's horrific. It's horrific.
Well, and I'll tell you, my son is in the Air Force, and he's just south of London, and he got into a car accident because they go really fast there, and the guy didn't slow down in time. And Brachelle's joining us. Brachelle, Amanda Graham is here. We're having a Beatles fest, by the way.
Yay! Hi, Amanda. Thank you for being here. I was just looking at your website, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm excited for this.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's such a pleasure to see you, hon.
And but we're going down Beatles memory lane, and I was telling Amanda before the show began that we're doing a music show now, and one of the things that we're doing is we're talking about the song "Let It Be" and how that has become a really important part of your and my life together, and with in the music show and everything that we're doing. So, do you want to tell that story of how I told you about that?
I would love to. Kevin had first told me "Let It Be" over a year ago, and at first it made me kind of angry. I was like, "What do you mean, let it be? I can't just let everything just go." You know what I mean? I have to control this, and I have to guide it. And then I learned about surrendering, and it's crazy because I never learned the story behind the reason of the song and what that actually was until recently that Kevin told me. But this "Let It Be" thing became everywhere. I wrote it in my friends' houses, and I left notes in people's cars, and I wrote it on my mirrors, and everywhere that I looked, my subconscious was seeing that. And it was probably a few weeks ago, and it actually hit me, and I'm like, wow. Yeah, I guess it kind of ties into the surrendering and when you just let it be, because in the weirdest way, this is what I've been telling people, Amanda, and I love your thought on it, but when you surrender, you actually have full control. Does that make sense?
What is so interesting about what you said about surrendering, I used to have, I didn't even know about the surrender thing until like I had like a very dark night of the soul. And this was about 8 years ago, and nothing was working in my life. Nothing, like all my beliefs were being challenged, and I didn't know about any of this. I just experienced it before I knew it. And when I read about surrendering, it made sense to me. And I printed out a picture of, in the Wizard of Oz, the Surrender Dorothy in the sky.
Yes.
And I printed out a picture that's of the Surrender Dorothy thing in the clouds. And I put it upstairs in my bathroom because sometimes I forget to do it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I forget it. And so what I do is I am in a cycle. I don't know if you guys are the same way, where I surrender and then good things happen. And then the old part of me that is the control freak part of me starts taking over again. And then I go, wait a minute, hang on. What I'm supposed to be doing is letting go of what I think things should be and what I think should happen, and really leaning into the way that things should work. And I love that you said that, because it's not something that a lot of people talk about, actually. But I think you're right, 100%. Like I'm a big believer in it.
Okay, good, because it sounds so contradicting, but it makes so much sense.
100%.
And when we come back from this break, if you have not heard this story, it is worth repeating because it means so much to so many people. And 40 years after that song came out, it is now reverberating with people in my world, because they're all saying, oh yeah, he's going to say it again, isn't he? Yeah, he's going to say it. And okay, just let it be and stuff. And we'll be right back after this 45-second commercial. Amanda Graham is with us. Go to her website. Brichelle, what's her website?
Her website is itsamandagraham.com. Go check it out. It's pretty cool.
We'll be right back.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Brichelle is here, and Amanda Graham is here. She is currently in Manchester, England, and she's gonna go. I wish I could do. At one time I could. I can't anymore. The Liverpudlian accent, because it is truly unique. I think in how that's done.
Yes, it is.
But and we were talking about the Beatles story, and I just Amanda, I just have to tell you, I did the show in 2003, and Brichelle doesn't even know this. I did the show in 2003, and I ended every show with, are you familiar with the album Abbey Road, and the very last song, other than Her Majesty, which was oh geez, I knew I would forget the words right when it mattered. But it's I'll think of it. Anyway, I played the Beatles song at the end of every show, but I could not continue to do it, because the copyright folks got wind of it, and they said, cease and desist, young man. Indeed, but that's just the way it works. But in any event, Let It Be is a song that Paul McCartney wrote in 67, 68 time frame. The Beatles were having troubles. Yoko was new on the scene. There was a lot of stuff going on within the group and around them. And Paul was very concerned about it. He was the workaholic of the group. He loved to be in the studio and he loved to work. And it was really making him crazy. Well, his mom, her name was Mary. She passed away when he was 14. She had breast cancer, and John Lennon's mom got hit by a cop and killed about the same time frame, just for reference. And so he was dreaming, and his mother came to him in the dream and said, just let it be. It's going to be all right. And that was her words of wisdom that turned into the lyrics of Let It Be. And then it ended up on Brichelle's mirror 45 years, no, 60 years later. It was really was a remarkable thing. But that is how music has affected me in my whole life. Amanda, does music affect you that way as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not just that. I think there's some of us where music is around us while we do things. And then I think that for some of us, music is inside of us when we do things. And for me, it has guided so many of my experiences. Like, perfect example, I am here in Manchester because of music. I was obsessed with early 90s Manchester and the birth of rave and all this. And I was like, one day when I'm old enough, man, I'm going to move back there and I'm going to go to Manchester. It's going to be awesome. And I did. I have experiences like this all the time. I used to date a succession of musicians and DJs and all that. So like most of the people who I have had in my life in terms of romantically have been musicians. I just love music. I just love to be the way that it makes you feel, the way that I have a physiological response to it. And sometimes it makes me cry. Sometimes it makes me laugh. I can't imagine life without it. Can anyone? I don't know.
Brichelle, would you tell the story of your dad? And this is really a heartfelt thing of your dad and you in his 18-wheeler when you were just a wee little lass. Tell us that story.
Yeah, actually, when I was little, I used to go with my dad around the country, and he worked for Pride originally starting out, and I was maybe like 3 or 4 years old, but I started going with him probably when I was about 5 years old, and all the way up until I was at least 12. And we went all over the place. And then the number one thing that was able to tie us together and really make the experience of what we were going through and what we were doing so extremely special was the songs and the radio station and how it was engaging. We won tickets, and I remember being out of my seatbelt, jumping on the top bunk, just so excited, freaking out, screaming these songs. And we won tickets. We're going to go to the concert, and it's something that you literally cannot put words to. It's an experience of a feeling that is nothing but happiness and so much love. There's so much love in music, even if it's in so many ways. I could talk about music all day. It does so many things, but the experiences, it really wraps around specific things and specific people is what makes it so powerful.
And in this case, it created a memory and a bond between her and her dad that will exist forever. And that's the power of music. I really honestly think, and I love your opinion on this, Amanda, I think that in many ways, music is a gift from God or the universe and the vibration that it brings of a positive nature, because it can really uplift your day. It can make it completely different, can't it? Or can it?
Oh, more than that. I mean, it's built into our DNA. Like when one of the documentaries I worked on was about Neolithic worship and things like that. And they built these worship centers like Stonehenge, but older than Stonehenge. And they built them literally around music and listening to music. So when you see like Stonehenge or timber henges, which are like the big circles built with like wood and things like that, they would literally place you in different places in the henge to hear music in different ways, depending on what your status was and the sensory things that they wanted you to experience. And so that has been tied to who we are as people for a very, very long time. It's built into us and who we are and how we move physiologically and how we relate to each other. To nerd out. Sorry, to nerd out.
No, and some people like music so much they'll even dance to it, won't you, Brichelle?
Yeah, no, that's it's like it literally is a vibration. It goes through your body and then makes the physical part of you move. And what you said, Amanda, hit right on the head. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember so hard. I'm too engaged in listening to this, but healing. Think about the vibration and everything in music, let alone the words, but healing, we use frequencies for that specifically. And we also have to be very careful because of it, because different vibrations have different effects for a reason. And so when you find yourself listening to really angry music all day and you wonder why your heart is pounding and you feel like you could run through a brick wall, that might not have helped. Do you know what I mean, Amanda?
Oh, 100%. I do think, though, that like angry music has its place, because I do think it's important for us to get certain emotions out and observe them. You know what I mean? As like third parties, really. But we don't want to get stuck in that. Like what's really, really important is making sure that we have the kind of physiological response to it that elevates us and unites us and brings us to another place where we can relate to other people. That's so important.
Exactly.
And you really haven't lived until you're driving down the freeway and No More Mr. Nice Guy by Alice Cooper comes on. And you
jealous. Like it's going to always be awesome, right?
and you sing to that at the top of your lungs, no more Mr. Nice Guy, and get that out, and then you can then return to being a human again after that.
Indeed. Yes.
So, and by the way, Amanda Graham has been in the describe for us what you've been doing for the last 20 years and how important you are.
Oh, just that. Okay.
Just a little bit.
Super simple.
Right. Okay. I'll do little snapshots. So I did documentaries for the BBC. Then I did stand-up. Then I got my first break in comedy writing. Then I did kids comedy. And then I moved to grown-up comedy. And I've been writing and we call glossing scripts, punching them up. And I've been writing for comedians. I've been writing films for quite a while now. So I've been keeping busy, writing animations, doing all kinds of collaborations. And here's the thing, like, I don't know, who's listening and what their challenges are, but I was very late to the game. I mean, you are geriatric in television if you're 40 years old. And I didn't start till I was 35. And then I started writing comedy when I was 40 or 42. So I didn't even get into it when I was 40, which is when they're trying to retire you. So for me, it's not even just that I like to do things chaotically. Apparently, I like to do things the hard way, because everything I've wanted to do, people have gone, no, you're too old, you're too disabled, you're too this, you're too that. And I've gone, oh, okay, so what you're telling me is I'm going to have to do things the hard way. And then I go, okay, just figure out what I've got to do this. And then I figure out my way, and then I get there, and it's annoying, but I do it. So I like to stress that with people, because I think too many of us get discouraged very quickly. And I don't mean because we're too lazy to like set in for the long haul. I think it's because we want to do exciting things. We want to do things we're passionate about. And unfortunately for some of us, those are in industries that are very competitive, and that will have people stepping over your grandma, you know what I mean, to make a sale and do this and do that. And so not everything is easy. But it's been pretty great. Like, it's been horrific. It's been horrific. But it's been pretty great at the same time. And I'm a big believer in honoring the difficult, and that doesn't mean that suffering is always amazing and blah, blah, blah. But what I mean is that I think those of us who have to kind of keep that positive thing going, because there are so many obstacles and there are so many roadblocks and there are so many gatekeepers. I think the advantage to that is not resilience and all that crap. Resourcefulness, yes, but you get so much better than other people who are in the industry, who've had the doors opened, who haven't had to jump over hoops, who haven't had to figure out ways, and who haven't been told no. So that's the short answer, Kevin. Do you want the long answer?
That is absolutely perfect, because I have some questions, and I know Brachelle does too. I want to ask you about comedy writing, and because, you know, there are people out there that are going, you mean that's not off the cuff, that they actually write this stuff down and they memorize it?
Yeah.
But I there was a story. When I was briefly, I was a boxer during the Rocky era, because I wanted to be like Sylvester Stallone and to be a boxer. And they told me that I had the talent to be the champion of the world. Thank God I didn't do that, because I would be brain dead now. But I was in the locker room with a guy who was an actor, and he was having a bad day, and he was an Irishman, and he said, and you know, I got to tell you, these people out there, they're so terrible, because you can stand in a bucket of poop and give somebody oral sex. That's not how he said it, but that's how I'm. And he said, just to get a role in these things. And it's like, oh, I think you need to change your career, my friend, because you don't seem to be happy with the status quo. But that's, you know, in the arts, it's a constant battle with so many people and so many wannabes, and everybody's after your little bit of success, and if you can do it, you know, Amanda can do it. I how does she do it? And she's old. She's gonna know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get all that stuff, and and congratulations on what you're doing and being a comedy writer. Who was it that said, acting is easy, comedy is hard?
I don't know, but they were right. There's probably about 100 people who could have said that, because I was just literally having a conversation about this the other day, because I had a meeting with someone who I've got an option with, and we were talking about which actors we wanted to attach to the project. And I was like, I don't want dramatic actors. I want stand-ups, because comedy is the hardest thing. Like, in terms of acting, comedy is the hardest thing you can do. I can't explain why. It has something to do with timing and the way your body moves and whatever else. But oh God, there's going to be people. I know there's going to be people like who listen to this going, rah, who are dramatic people. I am not saying there isn't talent in drama. I am not saying there isn't talent in drama, but comedy is a different kettle of fish. And also the audience is much meaner. Like, the audience is much more picky, you know, because comedy is subjective. Drama isn't necessarily subjective, you know, because it's channeled into the experience that all of us have as humans. Comedy is a very different thing altogether. And so, like, some of the best shows ever can have like a 10% audience share, you know, just because of the specifics and whatever else. So yeah.
Brachelle?
Yeah, so we need to take a quick break. I know, our halftime break.
Oh dear, I keep blowing.
And when we come back, I'm going to filter through the questions I have, and I'll pick one, because I don't know exactly which rail rack I want to go down. So
exciting.
So we need to take our very late halftime break, but we will be right back with more with Amanda Graham and Brachelle. And Amanda's website again, Brachelle?
Her website is itsamandagraham.com. Go check it out while we're on the break.
And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with, oh, there she is, Rochelle. That's her right there. I see her. And Amanda Graham is with us. And first of all, Amanda, I have to say, I'm honored that you would consent to come on this show with us, because I don't know if I know you know this, and you won't leave your lips, but you're kind of a big deal. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say blackmail goes a long way, Kevin. So of course I was going to be on. No, come on, it's a pleasure. I'd love to talk to people who have a positive way of looking at things, because Lord knows we all need it, so this is what it is.
This is not a political show, and so I'll save this political question till closer to the end. But okay. Rochelle, have you waded through all the questions you wanted to ask and have one?
Yes, of course. And I asked quite a few people this, but I'm very curious in your experience, what has been one of the most shifting experiences that you've had that shaped you differently afterwards?
Okay. Can I ask a qualifying question back, or two?
Yes.
So I assume we're not talking about the birth of a child or something that most people talk about.
I mean, that works, and that is so valid, but more in your career, yes.
Okay. And so anytime in the career, okay.
And can I add to that? And things that transcend the career, but affect Amanda as a woman and as a human being.
Okay. Yes.
And how that affected your career down the road.
Yeah, I'm very excited to tell you guys the story. It's so much fun. So during the lockdown, I had been really struggling as a comedy writer, and I got a job writing an animation. This was my first film. I was very excited. It was a co-production between Russians and Italians and UK, and it was a Russian fairy tale that was being retold. And I was very excited. Ooh, this is really, really neat. And it was quite a magical animation, whole feature. I was like, yes, I got a whole feature. So we had gone through back and forth, and I had started writing it, and then the lockdown happened. So over here, the industry had completely collapsed immediately. So here I am sitting in my flat as a single mom going, what am I going to do? I don't have a job. I'm a freelancer. I haven't got a job. The woman whose project it was, the Russian woman, her mom had died in the very first wave. We're talking when we were seeing the videos of the before it came over to America, when we were seeing the videos of the Italians being put into trucks and the French being put into trucks and whatever else. And she had died. So everything was off immediately. And I was like, and I really went into crisis, because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And in all fairness, that year I lived on 8,900. That's what I made that year. So it was difficult. And so I had all this free time, and I was trying to find work, but nothing was working. And I thought, well, while I've got this free time, I'm going to start networking, and I'm going to start doing all this stuff. So basically I did all kinds of side stuff. Like I created this networking, how to network thing for writers, which actually ended up blowing up. And now I'm traveling around the world doing these sessions, but that's not actually what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is I wrote this script about when I was in a cult, when I was in my younger teenage years, apocalyptic fundamentalist cult. And so I wrote this script, and it was very funny. And it was what we in the industry call my F it script, where there's no rules and you just do whatever it is that you want. So I was sending it to people because in the industry, whether it was LA or New York, nobody had anything to do because everything was shut down. So everybody was reading everybody's scripts. So I started sending the script out to people, and everybody was either like, this is genius, or what is this? I don't even know what this is. Okay. So I couldn't get any traction. So I decided I am going to do something different to what everybody else does. Why not? We're already in a time of chaos. Let's think differently. So what I decided was I'm going to find the director, and I'm going to nab the director, and then we're going to like do something with this. So I made a little short list of 5 directors, and I did a deep dive into all of their stuff. And so then I found my director, Tristram Shapeero, who started off over here doing Green Wing and all these shows you wouldn't have heard of. But in America, he did like New Girl, he did Parks and Rec, he did Kimmy Schmidt, he did a million shows that I loved. And I traced the trajectory of his career, and I was like, okay, he understands me. He gets me. I think he's going to love this script. So, but how was I going to meet him? He was in LA. So I asked my agent, could I get a meeting with Tristram? And he was like, I want a meeting with him. He has to be my director. And my agent, because we joke around, he was like, well, I want £1 million, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it. So anyway, like maybe the next day, you guys, and this is not an accident. I really believe in synchronicity, but like there was a tweet, and it said Tristram Shapeero is going to be the guest of honor at the online Cornwall Film Festival. And I was just like, no way. So I went, and I was there, and you know how like when you're in a Zoom and you're not even really paying attention to what anyone's saying, you're like, I'm just waiting to answer my question or ask my question. I'm just waiting to type in my question. I don't care about anything else. And so I waited until he finished talking, and I just I typed in the question. They liked my question, so I got to ask it. And I said to him, I was very nervous. And I said, I have a script. It's called How Heather Survived the Apocalypse, and I want you to direct it. What is the one thing you're looking for when you decide you want to direct a script? And so he was like, I want something weird and funny. I want something weird that nobody gets. And I was like, that's my script. So I waited 3 weeks, because I knew everybody from the festival was going to email him afterwards. So I wanted to clear out the suckers. You know what I mean? I just wanted to clear them out. And then my brain went, email his agent right now. So I emailed his agent, and I went, okay, so excuse me, you don't know me, but I met Tristram online at the festival, and he smirked when I said the title of my show, which means he is contractually obliged to read my script. Can I send it to you? And she said, all right, go on. And honestly, you guys, I didn't surrender. I did not expect to hear back. I was like, okay, I am very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you very much, universe. I'm going to send it off. And then 3 days later, my agent calls and it's like, Tristram's been in touch. He's mad for the script. And then he got in touch with me. He's like, can he call you? Can he call you? Can he call you? I was just like, got you. So he rang me, and he was like, who are you? I've never met you. I've never heard of you. What's going on? And we ended up, we've had a 5-year partnership. And I use our, and for me, that was a pivot, because when you spend your life trying to prove yourself over and over and over and over again, and then someone who you admire so much, someone who you are like shooting for the stars from the gutter, you know what I mean? Like, you got nothing to lose, and then they believe in you and they invest in you, and then you become partners. Like I that was magic. That was magic. And I always remember those moments of pure and utter magic. And even right now, my throat tightens up and my heart tightens up just talking about how grateful I am to have that, because it's not like that usually. And, you know, you really are jostling and fighting, and it's elbows up, and it's, you know, a million rejections. But there is something about someone acknowledging that you are very, very good. and then when we worked together, then we had Olivia Colman come on board, and she, because he had worked with Olivia Colman a few times, and she came on board, and then now I've got a relationship with her and her husband Ed as well. So it's like a chain reaction. But that whole thing about someone who you really admire believing in you, I don't think I had ever had that before in my life.
That is a remarkable story. But you know something? It was also, guess who manifested that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. You manifested that from everything. And then it started with, we're in lockdown. I can't do anything. Hey, I know, I'll write a script. And instead of saying, oh no, you can't write a script, it wouldn't work, and you said yes. So everything that lined up that you said yes to, and it all came to fruition. That is a great story, because that's not unique to you necessarily. Anybody can manifest that. I manifested Rochelle, for heaven's sakes. So anybody can manifest those things if they say yes and never quit. You are the epitome of never quit and saying yes. Do you agree?
Absolutely. But I also think let go of the way that you think it's going to happen. I think that is a very important thing. Life surprises you. And if you have, I have this tendency as an autistic person to break a task down into chunks. Okay, if I want an Emmy, I have to do this, and that. You know what I mean? I have 20 steps and whatever else. And when I learned, the lockdown taught, the pandemic taught me that life is never going to go the way you think it is. And now I don't even, like, if somebody asks me where you're going to be in 10 years or 5 years, I'm like, you got to be, bitch, you got to be crazy. I don't even know what I'm going to be doing next year. And I have let go of that. I have gotten comfortable with going with the flow. And yes, I will have my responsibility in growing and getting better and, making those connections with people and whatever else. But I have let go completely of what I think life should look like and be like, because, you just never know where life is going to take you. And I've kind of hit roadblock after roadblock, but it has always led me into a new place, whether it's the public speaking with the networking things or the book or, whatever else. It has always taken me into different places. And I've gone, yeah, okay. I've lived a life of chaos, and I have also had chaos foisted on me. And once you get over that nervous system reaction of what am I going to do? Everything is out of control. Once you get over that and go, no, I've already survived much worse things. And I knew worse. I knew less then. I knew less. So now I can go forward. I know more people. I have more resources. I've learned more. I've taught myself more. I have more faith. I can ride this shit out. You know what I mean? Like, and sorry, I swore. But does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect 100%. Sense.
Especially because when it just clicked in my brain, when you let it go, you're not ever putting limitations on yourself or the future. Why would you limit yourself to anything?
So are you guys saying, let it be?
Something like that.
Yeah, it always comes back to the Beatles.
Amanda, I want you to watch this, because this is something that we created, and I would love your opinion on it.
Yeah, of
course. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.
And Amanda Graham is with us. And Amanda, you have this contemplation look on your face.
I loved that. I loved that. And I think that kindness is very underrated.
And
it really is.
I don't know if you've been in the United States lately, but it's a forgotten art over here.
It is. And you know what? It's something only warriors practice. I really believe that. Kindness is something that only warriors practice.
Can I explain, Amanda, a little bit? What you just said is so important because I picture a little kid who grows up and is super mean and super angry about everything because of what they went through, and they weren't shown kindness, so they don't know how to provide it because it's not comfortable for them. They are the warrior who learns why kindness is so important, and when they're able to project that into the world, it's 10 times more powerful, right?
I agree with you 100%, Rochelle. And I think it's one of those things where some of us get to the point. When I say us, obviously I don't mean every single person, but I mean most of us in the world. When you haven't been raised with the tools that you need, and you fall into ego, and you fall into this, and you fall into whatever else, some of us get sick of it, and we're like, okay, I'm done, and I need to find a different way of doing things and whatever else. And some of us get lucky enough where we have people who model kindness for us, and we understand it. But every single one of us will get to a point in our lives where kindness is the more inconvenient way of doing things, and we still make a point of doing it. And maybe that's feeling empathy, or maybe that's just how we decide that we want to be programmed, or whatever else. But kindness is never free, unless we're literally talking. You go on Threads and you send messages to people going, you're kicking ass, and that's amazing. But generally speaking, kindness costs something, because it's easier to do the easy thing. It's easier to do the I don't care. I'm not going to go out of my way. I'm not going to do this. I'm not, I have a bee in my bonnet about kindness, really, because I find that I get frustrated. I'm sure you guys are the same way, but life would be just so much easier. People could be kind for 5 minutes, and it benefits all of us. It makes all of our lives easier if we do it. And yet people choose not to do it.
Well, does comedy help you when it comes to kindness, though? Because
there's a lot of people
I could see that as also being a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between being kind and being and giving your resources to the people who appreciate the kindness. Okay, not everybody is ready to receive kindness,
right?
And because there might be worthiness issues, there might be a lot going on there, and that is something that I've learned the older I've got. I spend a lot of my time, and I'm sure many of us in our 20s could have said this, where you give and you help people out, and you try and do this, and you date people, and you're like, I have what's called the broken baby bird syndrome, where I used to date broken baby birds, and try and rehabilitate them and whatever else. And not everybody is ready for that. Not everybody feels worthy of kindness and whatever else. And so I find, and I don't mean this in a selfish way, I think that the older you get, when we talk about kindness day to day, those gestures and the way that we are day to day, I think we should refocus on the people who are ready to receive it, because there are so many people who need it, who want to receive it, and who don't have the resources to do that. So I think maybe we don't waste our time on the people who aren't ready for it, or who want to resist us for it, who want to punish us for it. and then we refocus on the people who are ready for it. So that's how I feel.
That was
I don't know. How do you guys think?
golden. No, golden. Love it. Preacher for the people in the back.
It's just old age wisdom, baby. That's all it is.
Well, and Amanda, I think I told you that I drove a bus in Seattle for 12 years.
Which is so cool.
And I had an agenda of saying hello to everybody that came on my bus, whether they could pay a fare or not. What I found was 20%. If I said hello to everybody, 20%, and there may be 100, throughout the course of a day, there might be 500 people. 20% would respond back in an affirmative way. 80% either ignored me, or occasionally I would have somebody turn around and say, "What'd you say?" I said, "Have a nice day," but that was the commitment that I made. So at the end of the day, for my money, it doesn't matter. If you want to be accepting of my kindness, that's great. If you don't, that's great. I don't care, because it's not about you. It's about me. It's about.
I love that. I love that you said that. Did you find, can I ask, when you were driving the bus, what were those moments that really made you feel that those times that you said it to everyone were really worth it? Can you think of one right now?
Oh yeah, many, many, many times, because there were people that we always had, we changed routes and stuff, and when I first started, I had a couple of 10-year vets that were on my bus, and I was like, "Hi, how are you? Nice to see you," and stuff. And they said, "How long have you been driving a bus?" And I said, "I started about 6 months ago." And they said, "Oh, don't worry, this will all wear off. Pretty soon, you're going to hate them like everybody else hates them, and because they're the them." So I made a decision I didn't want to do that. But there were people that said, "I've never had a bus driver like you, and I really appreciate everything that you do." And at the same time, I've also had people that there was an assault on my bus, and the assaulters left through the back door, because I opened the back door for them. And the lady said, a lady who was sitting there said, "Okay, are we going to leave now? It's time to get going," and stuff. And I said, "No, I need to check on you." And she said, "Oh, I'm sure he's just fine." And is the lack of civility and human compassion on some people is just astounding to me, that people can. I saw when a lady got hit by a bus right in front of my bus, and so I stopped and called it in. No, one person. There were 60 people on my bus. This lady in a walker is lying on the ground in front of me on the sidewalk. No, one person got up to go offer assistance. And that is, to me, just unthinkable. And maybe that's where I learned some of it about the negative behavior that we all have, and try and uplift people to get rid of that negative behavior. But some people, Amanda, it's so frustrating, because some people just, they don't get it, and they don't, and they're all wrapped up in their own stuff. But we owe it to each other, don't you think?
100%. I don't understand and look, I'm sure people in ancient Greek times and whatever else were talking about the disconnect and how nobody was helping anyone and whatever else. So I don't think this is a new problem. I mean, come on, medieval times, you were lucky if you didn't get murdered walking, around your village square and whatever else. So I think we're better than we used to be, but it's very odd that people don't move like they're part of a community. And I don't understand that. Like, exactly what you were talking about, Kevin. It's called the bystander effect. I'm not going to do anything to help. I'm not going to do, because somebody else will do it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have, is that everybody thinks somebody else is going to do it, and somebody's got to do it. I don't know. I mean, I was always taught, oh God, I would sound like an old lady. Oh, I remember when I was an old lady, when I was growing up in the 70s, we were taught, if somebody's hurt, help them. If somebody needs something, give it to them. So
even animals, I would fight to say, understand that better than us as humans.
Thank you. Yes.
If animals can do it, we can do it.
You can literally watch them do it. What I don't get is, even if you're one of those people who's super selfish, right, and doesn't think of other people, if we all have the same attitude, it hurts you in the future. You know, if you foster an environment where nobody helps anybody and no one's helping people figure anything out or helping people when it comes to medical problems, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt one day. So, like, even from a selfish point of view, why wouldn't you do that? I find it very strange. I don't know. I guess as we're pretty individualistic, you know, as a society, and that's probably part of it. We don't see each other as community. We, you know, generally speaking, some of us do. I'm just saying the general population, we don't see each other as community.
And that is so true. And when you're driving a bus, as long as I did, and other bus drivers, they take a very negative attitude. I refuse to take that attitude. But we're going over time, but I need to tell you this quick story.
Okay.
Because we were at 5th and Pike, which is in downtown Seattle. I was driving the bus. I just let off people and other people got on. And it's very busy. All the sidewalks were full of people and they were going back and forth. I look in front of me and there is a blind lady. She has a white cane and she's walking across the street, but she's walking diagonally rather than straight in the crosswalk. She's walking towards the middle of the street of 5th and Pike, which is a very, very busy intersection. And she didn't know where she was. And so I put the emergency brake on, jumped out of the bus, and went to her and guided her back in. One other guy who did not speak English very well because he was visiting from another country responded. Nobody who lived there. This woman it was clear she had no idea where she was. And so the light turned green and cars started to go by her and all that kind of, and so, but I guided her to the sidewalk and I was just taken by the number of people that could have stopped traffic, could have helped, could have done. And to be fair, I've also had the other thing where there was an accident and everybody got out to help. So I don't know what it is, but people have it. I'm not going to get involved and stuff like that. And I wish it would change because we're all one. We're all connected. We all belong to each other. And that's okay. That's my sermon for the day.
Well, I'm just going to say amen to your sermon, Kevin. You know what I mean? Like I agree with this 100%. And, you know, I don't think it's even just about like individuals on the bus and whatever. I think it's about, we need to make sure that we have a society where people don't get punished because they're late going to work because they helped someone, you know. And I think it's not, it's about ripples, isn't it? And so we all have to support each other when it comes to looking out for each other. It isn't just an individual thing of, all right, I'm going to take the hit and I'm probably going to get fired because I helped somebody get to the hospital or whatever. It's literally like we all have to be there to support each other when this stuff happens, because this stuff is always going to happen. Disasters are always going to happen.
And Prashel has a great story. We're not going to have time for it, but suffice to say that somebody, well, tell the story just real quick about the car and that was speeding.
Oh, the speeding one. Yes. So there was this car yesterday, just quickly. It was just driving almost what you would say, like, imagine a 16-year-old had just gotten in his dad's nice fast car and was just getting really super close to people and doing things that were kind of causing problems. And there was this one car that was next to me that decided he was going to be the reason to piss off that person even more without reason, and decided to purposely slow down rather than to get out of the way. So I became that person because I thought to myself, if I was this guy, what would I want me to do right now? Pay attention, slow down, and move out of the way. So I did that. And I see him fly across 4 lanes, realizing that he was pulling into the hospital. And then I looked next to me and I made eye contact with the other guy and I just smiled at him, and I saw in his face that he knew he had done something wrong. So just remember that. If put yourself in that person's shoes and say, hey, if it's not going to take away anything from my cup to help this person or be what I would need if I was them, then just do it.
I love that.
Amanda, will you come back and talk to us some more? There's so much more to say.
Oh my God, yes. Are you kidding? I have really loved chatting with you guys. It's been so much fun. Yeah, 100%.
Thank you. And with that, Prashel, Demi is going to be mad at me because now she has to do a bunch of editing, but that's okay. This is well worth it. Amanda Graham.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for your time.
And her website again, Prashel?
Website is itsamandagraham.com. Go check it out.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. And actually, make it a great day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.